I always knew that theater had a positive impact on life. We had the highest foster care in the city, a lot of them on probation.
The kids had to go through a thinking process that literally changes the way your mind works.
Many of them were deprived in money, but not in spirit and not in intellect.
It's crazy what words on a piece of paper can do to somebody's life.
They were just reciting this stuff, verbatim.
I fear we shall outsleep the coming morn as much as we this night have overwatched.
It's so energetic and so free.
Crazy as it sounds, this changed lives. What we are is a group of professional actors, directors, and filmmakers that are dedicated to providing high-quality Shakespeare performance opportunity for inner city youth and others, free of charge.
We're entering our 6th year of operations, and it's just been an incredible journey.
BAFTA Los Angeles Education and Outreach Committee is involved in many different programs that serve inner city children.
Katy Haber and Paul Heller showed up at the school. They were doing an outreach program at BAFTA.
And one of the movies we showed was a movie called Why Shakespeare. And Why Shakespeare is a documentary showing that kids who normally would not be performing Shakespeare were performing Shakespeare, which was a life-changing experience for them. The drama department decided that we would start a Shakespeare program at George Washington Prep.
The programs that are the most popular, programs that bring the kids to school, the programs that actually add to the learning experience get cut. And sadly, what had been built up for 3 years ended up falling apart in the school side, but thankfully, independently, the Inner City Shakespeare program has been able to carry on, and it's awesome.
So as the BAFTA members started to come in, we set up the mentoring program. It happened just like that. And we had as many as 20 professional actors who are now in Game of Thrones and The Outlander and all these movies, mentoring these inner city kids. I always knew that theater had a positive impact on life, but what I didn't know was the value of this mentoring. Once the kids discovered IMDb and figured out who these people were, they were honored that they would spend time with them.
When they discover that actually they understand what he's saying, I remember Leo, who's playing Helena, said to me, "Oh, I get it, she's jealous." And I went, "Yeah, that's it." And from then on, it was like bang, and each and every one of them has had a similar breakthrough.
I think there's no greater reward than to know that you've made a change in someone's life, a positive change in which they've learned to fulfill themselves in ways they never believed they could.
And at first they were a little afraid because they'd never ventured into this part of LA. And they found the universality of humanness, that these are just people and they want to do a good job just the way you want to do a good job. And they were so giving and so loving. And even when the show was over, many of them continued to mentor the kids outside of the performance. They had connections. Be magical. Be magical. Go play with the audience. Go ahead.
NIFE has a program where they welcome veterans of the recent Middle Eastern wars to come and study on the GI Bill, study filmmaking. And we had the pleasure of being introduced to 3 such filmmakers, and they have been integral to this project on 450 years of Shakespeare and the impact that Shakespeare's had on the inner city.
And the Veterans Program has blasted an email out to all the vets currently in school, if we wanted to be involved in helping a Shakespeare project.
I found out about this project while studying, taking screenwriting classes at the New York Film Academy.
They reached out to me, I saw it, and I was automatically kind of drawn to it because I'm a Shakespeare fan.
And we're thrilled to be involved with them on every stage of producing this project.
When I first went in to see the kids, I think what really hit me was the fact that they all knew their lines. And I'm talking about full paragraphs of just literature that they have to know by heart, and they were just reciting this stuff, you know, verbatim.
It was amazing to me that they were able to get the depth of the characters that they were portraying, whether it was Helena, Hermia, Lysander. One of the impressive things about Shakespeare is the fact that even today, more than 400 years after his death, his work is debated by scholars, and yet, as was the case in this play and production, portrayed so beautifully by teenagers.
My lords, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to be here today. Inner City Shakespeare program deserves a round of applause. Katy, Haber, and Paul Heller, and our wonderful director, Dr. Melanie Andrews. What a wonderful, wonderful afternoon we're in for.
We have the opportunity to watch one of the most inspiring Shakespeare plays, Midsummer Night's Dream.
Helena, I love thee, by my life I do. I will lose with thee, to prove him false that said I love thee not.
I pray thee, gentle mortal, sing again. Mine ear is much enamored of thy note, so is mine eye enthralled to thy shape, and thy fair virtue force perforce doth move me on the first view to say, to swear I love thee.
I think that they were able to identify with the characters in Shakespeare because Shakespeare wrote those characters so clearly and expounded upon their moral dilemmas and their characters so eloquently that it's impossible not to be affected by them.
I particularly wanted to audition and go for Lysander because I felt like I can relate to the character in that sense, being a young man, growing up, falling in love.
It helps a lot to be able to draw from circumstances or draw from who you are.
Shakespeare is the #1 literary illusion when you get into college. And if you're not aware of where all these new movies come from, she's all that. That's Taming of the Shrew.
It's more than just a play. You know, these stories that Shakespeare is telling can relate to us today.
Any issue or, you know, even any good thing that would be shown in any Shakespeare play could be related to real life now.
Outreach in general was started with the play Romeo and Juliet and in dealing with gang violence in South LA.
While we were doing Romeo and Juliet, and we were talking about the conflict between the Montagues and the Capulets, and the alignment with gang issues is just so clear, and that started a conversation.
A lot of them come from hard, tough backgrounds, and you know, Shakespeare gives them an outlet.
One of our kids was killed, and other kids were around him when he died, and so that gave the show so much more importance.
I expected to just show up with a camera and record some things, but then, you know, I got to interact and watch, and through watching, it was just seeing what the project was actually doing for these kids instead of just, you know, some people performing Shakespeare, because people do that all the time, but seeing what it was actually doing to their personal lives and how it was affecting them was definitely inspiring.
They have achieved something much beyond just playing a role in a play. They've mastered a text, they've mastered themselves, they've shown themselves to be achievers.
The result was every single kid in that production graduated from high school in a school that has like a 60–75% graduation rate.
And as an example, like Thomas, throughout the course of the production, I got to meet his mother, and his grandmother and talked to him several times, and they told me about where he comes from and the background of his family and everything that he's gone through, and how much this program, Inner City Shakespeare, has molded him into the young man that he is today.
My first real paying job was at the Shakespeare Center of Los Angeles. The artistic director, Chris Anthony, she came out to see a couple of the shows of A Midsummer Night's Dream, and I was actually chosen to play the role of Hamlet in their production of Hamlet 2K14. And because of the Inner City Shakespeare Ensemble, I've had opportunities and doors have just opened up.
It's not only an educational experience for the kids, but I think it's also of a social experience for them, where they learn and grow as people, not just as students.
One thing I learned from the Inner City Shakespeare is a respect for all kinds of people. We've worked with different ethnicities, different beliefs, religions.
People from the Philippines, we had people from France, kids from China, and of course our South Central kids, Latinos, and our production brought everybody together. It was like the United Nations.
You don't see these people interact normally, like in everyday life, and just to see these kids melding and they're meeting new people and doing new things, that in itself is helping them learn.
You're all doing the same play and you're all trying to work for the same goal.
And I cast colorblind. I mean, it doesn't make a difference to me. Can you do the part? And I think that's the way all theater should do, because theater is just storytelling. And in this country, everybody has a story to tell.
You can work with whoever and get the job done still.
Shakespeare has opened my eyes to many different things. Like, I feel like with Shakespeare, I can be someone that I'm not.
All of a sudden, I saw them on stage and I was like, this is Shakespeare? This is poetry? It's so energetic and so free. They look so alive.
I'm having a blast up there. It's so fun, you know, to portray someone else. It's amazing.
Some of our kids have gone on to work with major film companies. We have 2 or 3 that are professional actors. We have hundreds now that are in college. Everyone graduates from high school, and we do this through the arts and through Shakespeare.
What better thing is there to know that you've made somebody's life a little more exciting, a little more interesting, and given them a step up towards finding a profession or a sense of achievement that they rarely get under the present system.
I can't help to stop and smile.
We can't change the world that our youth live in. That's kind of hard, but we can change our youth and make them better to live in this world, and that's what we do.
For in the temple by and by with us, these couples shall eternally be knit. And for the morning now with something worn, our purpose hunting shall be set aside. Away with us to Athens, 3 and 3, we shall hold a feast in great solemnity.